Hey there everybody, and welcome back to another episode of City Skylines. As always, my name is Newler and I have a nice cup of coffee here to get me going for this episode. So today we're moving a little bit away from the city and we're starting to work on like the water treatment plant that I've been meaning to do for a while, and just so that we can sort of add some design to our sort of water system and things like that. So that's kind of what we're working on today. You'll probably notice that it's been quite a while since I've posted a video, and the reason being is that I've been quite busy. I sort of started full-time work in my sort of career area, and then I was kind of adjusting to that, and then I sort of had some issues with my microphone not working, and then I got sick, and then I tried to use a replacement microphone, and it really didn't kind of work out for me to be able to sort of get this recording together. So I had all the stuff done, and the recordings were done. I just had to sort of get the voiceover, and I just had a lot of things that unfortunately got in the way, but I finally managed to find some time, so I'm back at it again. Obviously episodes may slow down a little bit just because I am working, so it's going to make it a little tricky to try and find time where I can, but it's also just a matter of getting back into the swing of things. I mean, I've been out for a while, so it's kind of a little bit hard to sort of get back into it. I am keen to start building again, so I'm looking forward to doing the next episode and just sort of start creating some more parts of the city and things like that. So hopefully that won't be as long a gap as what has just been. At least that's the plan, and I'll hopefully try and sort of stick to that as well. But anyway, let that aside, let's get on to what's happening in the episode. So like I said, we're doing like a water treatment plant, sort of another one of the things I've kind of had on the back of my mind. It's kind of been there. I really like the area for this place. So basically what it is in terms of where it is the map, this is like a big lake sort of area that's kind of bordering a waterfall. And this lake kind of funnels into a river and then sort of goes into the main lake. So it's quite a serene kind of place, and I thought this would be pretty cool to have a water treatment plant, especially because you've got this nice little outreach of land next to like the cliffside. So I thought it'd be really cool to kind of work around with this kind of not so uniformed space that I have in this part of the map. So that was kind of a lot of fun to do and sort out the layout for that, which I've kind of done already. This is kind of like the main layout of the area, so I was kind of trying to base this on what obviously a normal water treatment plant's like, and I remember there was like a couple of stages. You've got the inlets for the water, sorry, not the inlets, you've got the outlets for the water, actually I'm not too sure, but basically you have these sort of turbine things which kind of spin the water around. I'm assuming it's kind of like maybe some sort of extraction or purification process, and then from there they'll go into like a more rectangular thing, which I guess I'm assuming they're treated a little bit further, maybe with perhaps chemicals or something. I'm not entirely sure. Probably sounds kind of bad to say that the water is treated with some sort of chemicals, but I'm assuming it's some method that is used to sort of clean it further, and then from there it's placed into the actual main pipeline and sort of redistributed out into the city, maybe some stored away. I sort of basically make some storage tanks further on, where you might store some of the water or chemicals or whatever it is that may need to be stored in this particular area. Now here I'm using the procedural objects mod to sort of make these sort of pillars, downsize them a little bit, and they make them fit the size of the pipes so that they're sort of they're better scaled, and that worked out really cool. And I'll actually come back later and start adding some proper walkways so that people could sort of come along and sort of inspect all the different turbines and then sort of do reports and maintenance and stuff like that. And once I get those sort of I guess catwalks up, it starts to look really cool. So here we're getting to work on sort of the main administration building. So this is where all the office workers would be, people organising, paperwork and logistics and all that sort of stuff. Now here I didn't like the fluorescent sort of weird, like it's meant to be grass, but or at least I think it's meant to be grass. And it's a little too fluorescent, so I decided to try and use the ploppable asphalt mod and then kind of use some decals to paint it. And because decals work on a height system, if you subtly raise them just enough, they won't sort of bleed out into the sidewalk, so you can actually get like a nice like clean cut edge to the texture, the dirt texture, which is really cool, which came in handy. And here again, using more ploppable asphalts to kind of make a sort of like, I think it's like a diamond shaped sidewalk area, which is really cool. And then using some nice planters to sort of put some trees and some nice shade. I think this car park is one of my favorite parts of this build. I just like the way it turned out, and just sort of tackling the car parking design just a little bit differently from sort of generic, like sort of straight rectangles, and like for the parts of the concrete that kind of come out and separate parts of the car park. So it was really cool to sort of do that and mess around with that. Again, the the procedural objects mod is such a useful tool for that kind of stuff, and you can just do so much with it. Like I've seen a lot of other City Skylines people really make good use of that mod, and you can do some pretty incredible stuff like extending buildings and making buildings bigger or scaling them down or whatever, which is really good for City Skylines, because sometimes things can be a little out of scale. And then not necessarily out of scale, but sometimes you just kind of want to make stuff a little bit bigger than what it came default, which is really cool. And I've probably gone on about that mod so many times, but I mean that's why, because it's just such a good mod as well. Again, so we're still working on this front area, similar to the last sort of build I did, which was the logistics company in the logging camp. Is that I kind of wanted to make the entrance quite nice, and then sort of not worry too much about what the actual back area looks like, because they generally wouldn't. Like if you've got people visiting, you kind of want it to look a little bit nice on the front. Most of the time they might not be seeing the back area, but you obviously wouldn't really put effort and time into making the back area look nice, because it's just like an industrial kind of area. You don't really need to make it look good, it just needs to work, and people need to be able to sort of do their jobs and get to things as easy as possible. So that's kind of the approach that I took for this one, putting a bit of effort into how it looks on the front, and then not so much with the back, but obviously still making it look good in terms of just like a general industrial sort of realistic looking area as well. Now I've just placed down some I think they're meant to be highway like walls or overpasses, but they work really cool to make this really cool like nice tiered sort of waterside system, which is really cool. And I'm thinking in my next episode I kind of want to do some waterfront work on another part of the lake that I sort of left off, and using that kind of cool tiered system is going to work really well because it's on like a bit of a slope. So I'm definitely going to reuse that technique, because I think it's going to be really cool. And then putting like props and walkways and all that sort of stuff on it will be really nice as well, especially because I've got like invisible walkways that you can raise, so that you can put walkways on top of props, but you're not going to have any of those rails that you might not want to have, or allow you to sort of put more custom rails onto your walkways as well. So that's really cool. You're just kind of making some little garden areas, kind of using these assets, sort of these decals to line the pavement, because it matches the texture of that procedural object that I used for the car park. So I figured, well, that'll just make it'll make it sort of fit in better, and make it look like they're not like a separate object, but they're actually coming out from the sidewalk. So that's really cool to sort of make it kind of merge in quite nicely as well, and naturally, so you can sort of see that it's a bit harder to distinguish between where the object stops and where the sort of side of the road begins, unless you sort of look really closely. So that was really cool. I'm kind of glad that texture lines up, but I find with a lot of objects and textures, people seem to use a very similar texture set, so it kind of works well kind of making everything fit together in terms of how it looks, so it looks consistent, which is really good when you're sort of customizing things like that as well. So I'm sort of quite happy that the people are doing that with their objects and textures and things like that. And then here we're just sort of adding some custom line markings to this road, because these roads don't have line markings, and I wanted a small road, but I also still wanted like that bit of like no overtake line, because I think it just kind of looks nice with this area than just having like a plain road that doesn't have particular line markings as well. And then we're starting to segregate off all the different areas, sort of fencing different things where you wouldn't want people to sort of transition through, and just kind of, I guess it helps in terms of like the organization of everything. So if people need to drop off supplies, they know where to put it. They can put it in a certain area, and people know that this is sort of belonging in this area. I think it's just good to kind of fence these areas off and give it a bit more organization rather than just having it completely open and not locked off as well. And we also do a lot of nature work in this area, because I think, again, because this area wouldn't be super well maintained, you're going to have a lot and you're also dealing with like water, which is like everywhere. Then there's obviously going to be like plants and shrubs that will sort of grow quite well around this area, and like little bushes that will kind of creep through all the cracks in the concrete. So you'll see me come back and actually add like little bushes, little sort of sporadic spreading of small bushes here and there around there. And I always like, again, the sort of adding in those natural details always makes a build look more realistic. Like, it's not too perfect, it's not too clean, which is what a lot of places in real life are like. And like no building is ever really like that perfect, or no sort of plot of land is ever that perfect. There's always going to be, imperfections that'll come along. And then here is a really cool thing. I got these new network pipes, which is obviously going to be really good for this kind of build, because we've obviously got a lot of water being transferred around, and kind of making it go into these sort of overpass things I put on the side of the build next to the lake. Looks really cool. Having these sort of pipes and these sort of complex things kind of running around to make it seem quite functional. And then we sort of add like these sort of pillars and kind of make them look like little, kind of like joineries that kind of look like the pipes are going into like an internal sort of piping system, which is really cool. And then we're starting to work on the sort of back area, the maintenance area, where you've got your parking for the workers that work in the actual like pumping stations and filtration stations, and then obviously your loading areas and your sort of back docks for supplies, or like maintenance vehicles and things like that would sort of be housed in this particular area for this water treatment plant. Again, you can see I'm putting in these little joiners just to kind of add that little extra detail, which kind of caps that off quite nicely, rather than just sort of these pipes that just kind of go into a wall and don't sort of look very natural. So that's quite nice. And then sort of using, I imagine that this like power line might have been there previously, and maybe they can't really move it, so they sort of put like a safety fence around it so that people don't sort of wander into where they shouldn't be. And then moving on to this loading station, so I thought I'd put like little shed sort of thing that might be for maybe supply storage, or in this case perhaps laminating floors, I think the sign is, but some sort of storage unit for supplies, or maybe even sort of smaller vehicles and forklifts or things like that. And just sort of adding, just because it was quite a very open area, so I kind of wanted something a bit more than just car parks and loading zones and stuff like that, because we didn't really need that much space for all of it. So this is kind of like a nice little filler. Got a bit of an interesting angle there, which I kind of like, because it sort of segregates two parts of the area. And then because I'm in the sort of industrial category for objects, I start placing around sort of different boxes and different sort of, I guess, like industrial clutter that you would find around. So your piping, your lattice work, skippy bins, and then these kind of cool catwalks, which I thought was really cool. I'm just making my own little set that sort of allows you to get out to these areas. So we'll place some doors in, and then we'll get some of the ladders as well. And just kind of adding these cool customization things to the building to sort of make it your own, which I think is really cool. Because I've already put 2 of these buildings together, and I sort of added some walls and added some support, so just it's a nice little thing to add. And later on I sort of put these cool spotlights that point up towards the pipes, so you have one light on each pipe, which looks really cool. At night they've got a nice blue hue to them, and the lighting just looks really nice at the end, so you'll definitely see cinematics of that one. Because I've already done the cinematics, so I put a lot of night shots because it looks really nice at night, especially when you see lights on on top of the pipes that go across the road. You'll see me place some lights down there, which kind of makes sense because it's a good way to sort of add in a light, but you don't have to worry about adding in another sort of light pole. You can just sort of attach it onto these pipes, which I think is a really cool idea, and I imagine be a good way just to save a bit of money and save a bit of space and be more efficient with the building and stuff like that. And then here we're getting onto these line markings for these loading areas. It's not going to be too huge. It's only going to be, I think it's 2 or 3 sort of proper loading docks where they're going to offshoot supplies, maybe chemicals or something, or stuff that would be used for the filtration of water. And yeah, so we're just adding in these line markings, a bit of a separator, so that the forklifts can sort of get around into the trucks and take things out if they need to, and then just kind of capping that one off as well. And then supposedly what we're going to start doing is putting in some props. So this is kind of I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but this is kind of the main sort of loading area where all the supplies and some of the sort of chemicals and filtration chemicals will be dropped off, stored, and then sort of distributed into the system. So you've got some little towers there, some sort of extra storage. And then here what we're doing is basically making no, not just yet, but we will come back to a system of catwalks that go across all the pipes where all the sort of the circular turbines are, and basically what they'll do is basically act as a walkway for maintenance people and people that sort of check the quality and make sure things are working correctly as well. Maybe do safety reports and stuff like that. So you'll see us come back to that a little later. Here we're just kind of making, this is kind of the sort of employee entrance for some of the actual workers in the back end. So they'll sort of park up here and they'll come down. So we're trying to make it a little bit nice in terms of how it looks. Again, it's not going to be super crazy because then this company's not going to spend a huge amount of time sort of with decor on these sort of areas because it's not really worth it, as opposed to sort of the actual offices where you might get clients as well. But a lot of this stuff is just kind of we've got the basics of everything down, and we're just sort of adding in all the finer details and sort of touching it up, making it look quite nice. We do add some more sort of water tanks later on as well, but for now it's mostly just adding different details in. Again, coming back to this employee area, just putting some nice trees. We'll sort out some lighting options for them, and some sort of standard, your standard benches and trash and all that sort of stuff that you would see. And then kind of working out that back area as well for this water treatment plant, and also adding in, just kind of completing off this area with some of the line decals. We start working on a sort of a secondary loading dock just to the left of that area, but first just adding some nice puddles because they always look really nice for adding extra texture to the car park as well. The other thing we also do is adding more nature detailing as well, because I want this place to be kind of overgrown. It's in again, there's not a huge amount of maintenance, it's a bit out from the city, so you're going to have this sort of natural sort of blotches of trees and stuff like that. And I mentioned it before, because of all the water, different little shrubs and stuff will grow in and out of this area in between cracks in the concrete, and obviously a lot around the sort of edges and boundary of the water treatment sort of footprint as well. And then obviously adding some of the fences around it just kind of create a little barrier of where this place starts and ends to keep animals out and stuff like that as well, because you don't really want animals coming into this area too much or accidentally getting stuck in the water filtration plant. And then, like I said, this is the part where we're starting to detail a bit of the nature stuff, adding some different texturing to the ground as well, just to sort of vary it up from just sort of rocks and grass and things like that. And then, like I said, adding these little shrubs and stuff in between cracks and stuff, and accidentally delete the wall there. So I do quite like doing some of the nature detailing. I always say that it like kind of caps off the place as well. And we've got such a great range of different options to use in terms of like vegetation and stuff like that, so we can really make some awesome stuff as well. And then in combination with like texturing, just makes the ground look really nice as well. So here we're coming back to this little secondary loading dock that I used. Using these nice, I don't know if they're decals, but I think they're actually assets that like look like decals, but it just is really nice because that terrain is it's not quite flat, and I think it's the way that I've got some of the buildings, and because it's quite near the water, it kind of messes it up a little bit, so I sort of use that to sort of flatten it out. Here was really cool. This is a really big object, but I sort of really knock it down to make it look like a nice little ramp, because I think I had to use, no, I didn't have to use procedural objects on it, but just being able to lower this down to street level is really good, because you weren't always able to do that. It would sort of stop at the sort of the curb level as well, so you sort of had this gap. But that looks really nice to kind of have this little custom ramp going out into this sort of, I guess, custom made loading area as well. And then just adding in some of the line markings later on for this area, just putting in some of the details, some makeshift kind of walls there, like just like little concrete barriers, because I think sometimes there'd be like little last minute unplanned developments in this area, so they're not going to put like a potential, or like a sort of permanent wall. It might be this might have been a makeshift loading zone, so they sort of just quickly put together some concrete roadblocks and sort of made a little barrier area as well, so that trucks don't go the wrong way. And then obviously adding in some of those lighting options so that you can see where you're going, and then some of the maintenance stuff and little forklifts and stuff like that as well, just to kind of help get some of these resources and stuff off the trucks and into where they need to go, and a lot of different things here. But that's basically what we're doing, is just doing all these minor little detailing stuff for the last 10 or so minutes. So we go around to all the different areas and just kind of revisit some old places as well. We do a lot of work on the main entrance bridge, which turns out really nice, because we've got like the road, and then we've got the power lines next to it, and then we've got like some piping next to it. It just looks really nice and really sort of industrial, which fits well with this area. And you can see here I'm putting in I can't remember what they're called, but basically the support beams for our walkway. So you can see here it'll attach onto that little staircase, and then we can sort of walk along these support ramps across the different areas of these turbines, and then we sort of like got another area that you could sort of climb down with as well, which is really good. This little set of catwalks was really fun to work with, and really works for this kind of area. And then using this wall to sort of connect up those support beams that come from the bottom of the catwalk down. They don't quite hit the floor because it's quite high, so you use this the wall networking tool to kind of make a nice little curved wall, a little bit of design there to sort of connect them to the floor, so they're not just sort of in midair, and then just kind of extending that wall a little bit more so it's not just some random curve, makes it look a little bit believable. And then here we're adding in the I can't remember what they're called, the retaining walls, just to sort of, because it's on that sort of like cliff area, you kind of want something to sort of hold back the soil a little bit and keep it secure, especially because you're going to have a lot of people traveling this way as well. So you want to make sure that landscape is secure, and if there's any rain, it's not going to cause too much issues. I think I did a 2-layered system here, or for the bridge, which is really nice. And then we're adding sort of what I would think is like maybe storage, or maybe sort of some processing tanks for like the reusable water, and sort of whether it adds any certain chemicals or stuff that cleans the water and stuff like that. Using a combination of pipes, and then using like some concrete blocks to kind of create these sort of joins that go through the walls of this area, so you can see there's parts of the pipe that go through the walls and stuff like that. So I'm trying to use these concrete blocks to kind of make it look a bit more like there's a proper join there, as opposed to just a pipe that just goes straight through the wall, and sort of makes it look more like it's supposed to be there as well. Those two little silo things actually disappear because they were growables, and for some reason the ploppable growables mod was, I think, being funny, or I've just forgotten how to use it, and they kind of despawn. So I actually end up putting two larger sort of tanks there just to kind of fix that up. Again, here making a little crossing so that people can get over the pipes with a combination of stairs and catwalks and stuff like that. I didn't really have any stairs that were small enough, so I kind of had to use these, which are a little bit different coloured, but they actually kind of look quite nice, and sort of they've got that nice fencing railing, which sort of works well, which really good. So they saved me a lot of effort in trying to sort of go onto the workshop and find something that was a bit more specific to that as well. And then kind of touching up the sort of nature parts of this area, adding in just a second garden area with some walls, and then I kind of saw this really small gap in between these two walls, which I put like a singular pillar thing just to add a bit of design. You'll see that in a sec. It's a little tricky to see, but I zoom in and sort of plop it right there, just to add a bit of interesting design to it as well, as opposed to just being a solid wall. And then finishing off at the car parking area, adding some seats and some lighting. And I think now is when we start doing a bit of the lighting work. We stop a little bit later because I sort of switch it tonight and sort of see how it looks. Not really going to show much of that in the recording just to save time, but you will definitely see the cinematics of what it looks like at night as well. It turns out really nice too. You might even see me put some of the lights on the actual pipes of that big pumping station, and that looks really good at the end with these sort of lights that kind of illuminate upwards along the pipe as well. This area is kind of like the last little parking area, so this is kind of for me where all your maintenance vehicles would go. So I think I put like a little cherry picker, so like if people need to like repair the pipes, they've got that sort of vehicle at their disposal to use, and then a couple more forklifts and just some general purpose machinery and stuff like that, just to add to that last area, because I sort of had this plain area. Didn't really want to make it just like a random dirt patch, so I sort of added some different things here and there, and a little generator as well, just to fill in that space, because again I wasn't too sure what I should put there as well. But all of that worked out quite nicely, and I stick a little bit of dirt here just to put in a little bit of natural things here and there, but nothing too crazy. Again, adding some more sort of degraded like land, so there's sort of, maybe there might have been concrete, it'll be sort of dirt and stuff like that, and just sort of some shrubs to come through. It's probably like because some of these areas they wouldn't bother with maintenance because it's in like a particular part that doesn't really get used, so there's no point in sort of spending like, I guess, company money repairing stuff that isn't really going to matter and isn't going to be used as much. So again, I have been jumping around a lot, just adding in some of the final details of the nature area and the vegetation. This all looks really nice, like it sort of all works well in combination. Here was kind of cool. I made sort of like a second, like another access point, so you can actually get down to sort of that tiered setup of like landings that are near the waterfront. So you can see there's also pipes here, so my interpretation is they can get there and they can work on the pipes and repair it and do maintenance work or check for it as well. And this is really fun, like I love working with sort of tiered levels and elevation and sort of adding in, and it allows me to make use of the procedural objects mod to sort of make a custom wall to sort of cover up that gap in between that overpass block and the stairs, so I can sort of use one object and scale it up and then sort of make it as long as I need to, and sort of basically save on the object count, which is always nice to do. So this area turned out really nice as well. I really liked how we could gain access to that area. And then here I'm actually adding in the lighting for the streets because I didn't have it selected when I initially put these roads down, so I forgot to do that. And then here was kind of cool. I was looking for some options for lighting, and I did put these big spotlights, but then I decided to put like some lights that kind of hang off the pipe that goes across that road, which was really nice as well. And it kind of makes sense because it saves money than having to build a brand new sort of light pole to host these lights on. So you can see I've just popped them in there. Looks really good at night, having these sort of pipes and then the lights that are underneath it as well. And then here's the part where I'm talking about this little tiered system of road and electricity lines and then the piping. So using these tiered retaining walls to kind of make this sort of like a little dam thing for this bridge, and then doing the same thing for the hillside again to stop rocks from falling and soil erosion and stuff like that. And when I add the pipes across the bottom part of this tunnel bridge, it really looks nice. Kind of nice to see these pipes that are kind of coming out of this water treatment plant system and kind of essentially going underground, and what you would assume to be spreading out to the city and the other sort of water supply and things like that. Now obviously they're not actual functioning pipes, all the piping is still underground, but it's a nice little prop to use. It would be kind of cool if they were actually functional, so you could actually use them as proper piping, but it still looks good. And yeah, I really liked how this came out when I sort of put these in and eventually lowered them to the ground. And then I actually added in like a nice little glass barrier for the bridge, just to kind of add something a bit nicer as well. Really cool looking sort of barrier as well. It'd be great to use this on like an inner city highway or something like that, which would be really cool. So I'll have to keep that in mind next time I do some work in the inner city. But again, adding some final decals is pretty much it for the episode. I know this has taken a while, and like I said, just started working full time. Kind of got knocked out of the flow of making these, so I hopefully will get back into it. I'm excited to get back into actually building another episode. It was just taking a while because I had to record the voice over for this, which isn't as exciting as actually making the build, so it sort of took me a while to get into it, but I've done the voice recording this time, so I'm keen to get into the next build. Not sure what it is, but yeah, until next time, my name is Darlyca, and I'll see you later. See ya.